every life has a spark, a truth the heart never forgets.
And sometimes one conversation is enough to bring it back.
No ego, no noise, just real insights that inspire and brighten the path ahead.
Because living with love isn't an idea, it's a choice that we make every day. Welcome to Swiss Impact with us. So today we will be in Ghana talking about a nut most of the world has never heard of and how it could unlock income for women, restore soil, and quietly change what ends up on our plates.
Our guest is Dr. Elie Fink, founder and CEO of Talmond Foods, a woman-founded company building a new value chain around the tropical almond, turning a neglected local tree into high-value food ingredients.
With this, we welcome Wolf-Rüdiger Daetz. He's an impact investor, board member, and former global CFO, and now a shareholder and strategic partner of Talmond.
Elie Wolf, welcome to Swiss Impact.
Thank you very much for having us.
So tell us, where are you both in at this moment?
So I'm currently actually in Frankfurt, not so far away from you. So Frankfurt, Germany.
Yeah, myself, I live in Switzerland for the last 18 years, but I go frequently to Ghana because that's where the music is playing.
Right, let's start then. So tell us in one word what tropical almond means for you.
Well, I can tell you what Talmond means for me. The tropical almond, Talmond is basically a merging of the two words tropical and almond, right? And what we're doing at Talmond is we're really building a completely new global climate resilient tropical almond industry out of Ghana and essentially West Africa. And in doing so, we're creating a completely new category in the nuts sector. And we're doing this while generating also equitable incomes for smallholder farmers, but also improving soil conditions and helping battle climate change essentially as well.
Very good tasting new nut. Here it is. And I will eat it now because I had so many over the last 3 years. It's just brilliant.
That's good. It says more than words. And Wolf, you could have actually do something else. Why did you choose to put your money and stand behind this founder and this nut? What made your choice?
I had an eye-opener experience back in 2022 when I went to Ghana for a very different reason. I met Elie. I was so excited about what he was trying to do. And the tropical almond is something which is very unique. It's much more than just offering a nut. It is something which is very similar to the conventional almond, but it's a much better taste and it is water smart. Something which the world has not seen so far, because if you look at the conventional almond, it needs 12 liters of water per kernel. So I must say, for me, it was fantastic to see this and see the trees and see the fruits and see and eat the nut. So I said that will be something for the future to develop.
Did you know before the Europeans came there, the native people there had more than 1,200 kind of nuts and grains they used, which was grown for thousands and thousands of years in the forest without destroying deforestation or anything. And the people there used to live on it. Then came the Europeans. They not only destroyed the whole thing, they destroyed also the forest and then brought in all this soya and everything. And now they want to reverse the situation, that bring back these nuts and bring them to Europe. And I think you are doing very, very similar.
Actually, thank you for pointing that out, because this is actually one of the things that got me hooked with the tropical almond is the fact that actually already in 1995, a publication came out by the FAO saying how there are more than, I think it was 560 edible nut species in the world, but only a handful are being commercialized or produced at scale. And this abundance that we have is completely being overlooked. Whereas I believe that it's precisely that diversity in food and diversity in plant is what will build our climate resilience and will be able to make our food system strong and sustainable.
Elie, can you tell us about this moment? Because you've been growing as a child, watched people cracking these nuts everywhere, part of their life, but economically invisible. So when it came into you, like, why don't we should try to make it accessible to European people, US, whoever? Like, how did that happen? This little enlightenment of your.
So after I completed my PhD, I was lucky enough to come back to Ghana to do a postdoc, where I was really free to do field research work, and it was really exciting. And so we traveled across Ghana, and I loved what I was doing, but I already always had in the back of my mind that I really wanted to do something that would have an impact that would be related to food systems. And so I kept my eyes open. And really, like, when I stumbled across the tropical almond, which as kids growing up in West Africa, we all know it. And even beyond West Africa, you go to, the Caribbean, everybody knows it. Like, it's kind of like something that seems to connect all these different regions where, you grew up with this tree and you know the tropical almond. And so, yeah, as you said, like, I grew up cracking it with a stone and eating the flesh of the fruit and just, but not thinking of anything or, not considering it further. And so coming back, I was like, but it just doesn't make sense. Like, Africa and Ghana and the continent as such is just so heavily reliant on exporting raw materials and importing basic foods when we really have so many neglected and underutilized, climate resilient crops that we could be utilizing. Also beyond that, beyond the climate impact that it has, as Wolf already pointed out, it doesn't need any artificial irrigation to grow in Ghana. Beyond the climate impact, it's also about, making use of the untapped smallholder farmer potential and essentially making our food systems more equitable, right?
Wolf, do you remember the first time when you heard Elie's vision? And what was your honest first reaction, and what convinced you that it could actually work?
She is really convinced about what she's doing, and she knows the facts, and she has lived in the country for so many years. Therefore, it was so easy to be convinced. Since then, I'm basically spending 60% of my time for free just to make this thing happen.
So then tell us, what is broken in today's food system that Talmond is actually trying to repair for small farmers, for women, for climate? So what is that?
When we talk about the untapped smallholder farmer potential, we're really talking about the fact that most of the population is in one form or the other a farmer, right? And so subsistence farming is one of the main things that, especially in rural areas, forms the bedrock of income. With the tropical almond, we really see it as a tool that, on the one hand, we can help smallholder farmers diversify their income. Then beyond that, we really work on providing technical assistance that then says, hey, beyond planting the tropical almond, you can integrate this in an agroforestry system to basically combat that degradation that we've been observing over the past years. And so this is really where the tropical almond is providing, on the one hand, a soil restoration tool, it's providing diversified income, and it's really robust and resilient for unpredictable rainfall patterns and drought that we're facing.
If you look at it more from the human point of view, so who are the women at the beginning of your value chain, and what changes in the household when this becomes a real, reliable income?
So, I mean, giving you examples, like you will have like a woman who's doing subsistence farming, but with an unstable income, hand to mouth, like, selling what she has as a surplus on the market, but then keeping the rest for the household. And through the tropical almond and through agroforestry, this basically becomes a long-term tree asset, right? So diversity on her plot, and that also means more predictable future income, right? So it's also a form of old age pension, so to speak. And for her family, it changes basically farming from just survival to planning, right? And in terms of also the income that they can generate, we're really talking about a substantial raise in what the family could earn through the sale of the tropical almond, for example, to us as the off-takers of the produce.
And if you take us on a journey from a tropical almond tree in Ghana to an ingredient in a European or US product, so what are the key steps you've already built to make it happen? So basically, what's the stage, right? Where do you stand right now?
So the beginning, as Elie said, is having the nursery, and in our own nursery, just this year, we raised more than 60,000 seedlings. Then we brought them to the farmers, and very important that to notice that we have something like 50 trees per acre, and one farmer should not just live on the tropical almond; he should also have other things. So we make sure that they have variety, and if you just take the 1 acre and the 50 trees, they can make up to 2,000 euros a year of income. If you take that, it means a yearly income for them when you look at the poor side of the farmers. So that's also where Elie already commented on. Then we, after the harvest, then Talmond takes over, and we will crack the nut, which has never been done before in a commercial way. And then once it is cracked, it is pasteurized and other things being done to it, and then we can either sell it in Ghana, we can sell it in Europe, in the US, and it can be just the kernel itself as a snack, but it can also be in oil.
The oil, by the way, is a wonderful palm oil replacement due to its features. But also the oil cake that remains is super, super dense in proteins. So we're talking about a protein content of around 54%, which is actually unheard of in seed cakes. And so that also leads to further, alternative protein application. Absolutely.
So nutritionally or functionally compared to almond, soy, or other nuts, we already know that's really something special, right?
Yeah. And that's why we're really in communication with very excited off-takers who are saying, wow, well, we really see the potential of how we could apply this in our products.
We should not forget that Talmond has two parts in its life. So one is helping the farmers and helping the environment. On the other hand, we are not an NGO. So in the end, we want to make money for society, have a better product, which conquers the world, which is a fantastic alternative to the conventional almond. And if you look at the 55 billion US dollar nut market, I think we have no problem in scaling. So today we have planted 52,000 trees already within 2 years. And we will plant another 48 because our vision, Elie's vision especially, is to make 100,000 trees. And with that, in 2030, because they need to grow 3 to 4 years to give a complete yield, then we will have a conservative calculated volume of kernels of 2,700 tons.
Since this is such a good money generating product, wouldn't it encourage the farmers to start like deforestation, like what happened with the soya, that they start deforestation or cutting forests and things like that to expand the nut trees?
That's a very important point that you're raising. And actually, that's also one of the crucial aspects that we've considered from the beginning. In our program, when we work with the smallholder farmers that we onboard onto our program, we make sure that we communicate that very clearly. But beyond communicating that clearly, we also obviously go and monitor and survey the lands that the farmers, the smallholder farmers, are making available for the project. So we make sure that plot of land that is utilized is maybe fallow land, or it's already land in usage, but it's definitely not forested area is then deforested. Absolutely not. It's farming land. And the presence that we have with our team, our extension services team on the ground, is such that we have a very, very close relationship with the smallholder farmers. So they visit them on a weekly, bi-weekly basis. So our presence is really felt. That makes the smallholder farmer also feel like they're not alone, because they've often, one of the main concerns that they've voiced upon when we enter the communities is like, oh, but is this just one of those projects that's coming and then it just disappears and we never hear of you again? And to deter that fear, we really make sure that our team is on site and it's present, and they can feel our support and we are there. Yeah.
So, Wolf, what is the biggest bottleneck to scaling right now? And what kind of capital or partners can actually solve this?
The bottleneck today is financing into production. So we have something which no other company has ever developed, and that is we found a way how to crack a tropical almond. This is a tropical almond fruit, and it's very different to crack from any other nut. That's the main reason why it has never been industrialized. We found a solution. We found a solution with a German company who is building specialized machines. And this gives us a complete edge over everybody. We are years ahead with R&D. We are years ahead on planting. Even if somebody wants to compete with it, they need years. And we have the technology to crack. Now, since we have planted so many trees, we now need to have a factory in place in about a year's time. So 26 is the year we want to build the factory. And for that, we need roughly a bit more than 500,000. And then, of course, on top of it, you need to buy the yield from the farmers, and you need to produce, and you need to sell. So all of that brings us to equity, which would be good around 1 million or a bit more. And that would solve our bottleneck. Everything else is in place. We have a factory design. We have everything planned through. If that is solved, we're up and running.
I have an emotional question for Elie. What was the moment when you thought, okay, this is no longer just an idea, this is actually working? That it's becomes a reality of your dream or an idea.
It's a hard question to answer, because I don't think I can say if there was a specific moment, because it's always work in progress. As you're building a company from scratch, there's so many hurdles to overcome that you don't really, you're in the process, you're in the motions, but you don't know when it's going to stop. Or you don't know when you're going to have to say, well, okay, I need to maybe say, call it a day. It's just not going to happen. Or when you say, okay, no, I can persevere. I can keep pushing, because there's still that we can pursue. There's still that. So there was always the feeling of, well, there's nothing else I'd rather do than to see this come to fruition. And that's what kept me going. But there's not a moment where I was like, this is actually happening, because it was all just a very gradual process.
So what is it that keeps you going on the hardest days, keeps you up at night?
In the hardest days, it's when I think, okay, well, what else would I do that gives me that feeling of doing something sensible, doing something impactful, that makes me gives me the feeling that I'm doing something worthwhile. Because that's always been, I think, I don't think you become a scientist to make money. You don't. There are much easier ways. If you become a scientist and you go into academia and you go into research, it's because you really care about understanding how things work, and you want to have the foundations, basic knowledge. You want to contribute to knowledge, basically. That has always motivated me to somehow do something that's worthwhile and leaves an impact.
So the purpose, right?
The purpose has always been super important. That's what keeps me motivated, because when I stop to think, okay, well, what else could I do right now? I don't think it's really easy to find something that gives you purpose. And so that's really what keeps me going. The purpose that I see behind it and the potential of the impact that it can leave.
And Wolf, so what 2 or 3 KPIs do you watch to know Talmond is on track in impact and also in business?
for me, there are three categories for KPIs. One is the supply side. We have talked long about it. So presently we have the 52,000 trees, and we will go for 100,000 trees in its agroforestry. That's the one KPI area. What does it help you if you have fantastic nuts, you have done a lot to the farmers, but in the end, you don't have customers, right? So off-takers for us or the customers are very important. And by now, we have more than 7 LOIs, letter of intent, serious ones, not just handwritten, these kind of things, from big companies. And it is worth more than 12 million euros already today. And I can tell you what I found so exciting was you meet these people, your future customers, you talk to them. They say, "Oh, can you send me the nuts?" Which you do, and then they call you back and say, "When can I place the order?" And you say, "What?" I just told them it takes 3 years for the plants to grow, right? They have forgotten. They have forgotten it takes time. They say, and then you are a bit cheeky, so you write back to them, or when you're on the call, you say, how much are you buying in your first lot? And they talk about 3 tons, 6 tons on
Cool.
day one, and then you say, okay, obviously Elie has not done anything wrong. She has the right vision. And the third KPI is around production, right? So we need to get our production done in 26. Something we did, which is a KPI I love so much, it's about the cracking machine. Today, every nut we give to people for tasting or to sell is hand cracked. 2 kilos of the tropical almond needs a whole day to be cracked. And this machine we have found does 450 kilograms of fruit an hour. So these are the KPIs we are working on. And I think they are good KPIs and they're all in the right direction.
I find it really beautiful that we have investor and the founder in the same TV show. It's rather rare, and it's always nice to have this kind of interaction between two committed parties aligned with a purpose. So I have a question to you, Wolf. In one short sentence, what do founders usually underestimate? And maybe you can give a piece of advice to Elie for the next 12 months to help her in the mission.
Find the investors which we need to make this production part happen, to convince VCs as well as other investors to come on board now. And I think she's very good at it. So she doesn't really need too much of my advice.
So, Wolf, we heard the purpose of Elie. What did you think you found your life purpose, or you are still on the discovery?
Well, I found my vision also, what I want to see in Talmond, and that is I want to see people in the South to make a living, to really catch up. This is fair trade, fair prices, and they don't need to move to other countries. And if you want to make this happen, you want to bring the work to them. I think that's what my main motivation is and what I've been working for the last 3 years, nothing else.
And if I can ask in one line, each of you, what is true love for you, and how does this work at Talmond connect to that word?
I would say it's when you create something that is beyond yourself. So it's you're creating not because you want to reap personal rewards, but you create something because you really believe that it can have an impact on the community and the people beyond you. And ultimately, that's really what I think the word love boils down to. It's beyond yourself as a person. Yeah.
I love that. Very beautiful. And you, Wolf?
True love for me is when I fell in love with the farmers in the village where we were sitting in front of them and they were telling us, we trust you. I think you will come back and you make this happen. And then I said, this is true love between both sides.
So let's take 3 or 5 years forward. So what does success look like for the women, for Ghana, and for Talmond?
We are very sure that in 2030, our 100,000 trees will give a yield, and I repeat myself, of 2,700 tons, which sold on the world market in different products will generate a very good revenue and also profit for Talmond. This makes Talmond secure to succeed. If we succeed, the farmers will succeed because we want to make their lives better. And we also want to ensure that the earth is better. So that's why we do the agroforestry. And they will get something like, and I prepare myself again, something like 2,000 euros return on an acre. If they spend 2 acres, it will be more. And they will have trust in us and they will continue to grow this. So I think in 4 or 5 years from now, our volumes will automatically increase because farmers will all come to us and say, oh, can we do more with you?
Yeah.
So I think it's a fantastic combination where everybody wins. And I think Elie started at the beginning to say we want to put Ghana on the table. We want new products to come to the table. We are the first movers. And I think we are on the way creating the next super nut.
Just wanted to ask, Elie, I was speaking to some farmers from Uganda a couple of weeks back, and they said that they were expecting rain in August. Until today, they haven't had a drop.
Wow.
So a lot of their agriculture is destroyed in Uganda. So can your almond also face that kind of risk with the climate change?
The risk of drought to the almond is higher at a very young stage when they're still seedlings and they're just now trying to, really make their roots grow. Later on, they can tolerate up to 6 months of a drought period with very, very, very little rainfall and be fine. So they're very drought tolerant and also very limited amount of actually inputs that you need to provide for the tropical almond to grow. It can grow in a very diversified and varied type of soil, right? And in very ranging pH values, and also the constitution of the soil can be very different from very sandy to more loamy. So we have a very robust tropical almond tree here that we're talking about.
Perfect.
Maybe I can add 2 short things to it. One is, since we are growing it on our own 13-hectare farm already, and we see every year how they grow, and whenever there's a dry period, no problem at all. It just continues to grow. And on the other hand, you know about the cacao market. Ghana and Ivory Coast together have 66% of global cacao production. And they have all these illnesses and what have you. And one of the reasons is that they don't have what they call the shade trees. So every cacao tree should have a higher tree above them, which is the shade tree, protecting them against sun and protecting them against when it rains. Sometimes you have too much rain at the same time, so the earth goes away. All that is protected. And we have planted 20,000 of our trees into the cacao area. So even the farmers there are asking us, and there's a project there, not just the farmers, they asked us to supply the seedlings, which we then planted there with the farmers.
And we've done so for 3 consecutive years. So we will be doing so for 3 consecutive years. 2 years ago we did so, last year we did so, and next year we will be doing so as well. So they keep coming back for more because that synergy between the cocoa and the tropical almond as a shade tree is working really well.
Elie, if, say, for example, a young woman like yourself in Africa is watching and thinking, could I really build something like this? What do you want her to believe is possible?
It's a tough one because I don't want to give, rosy, idealistic, positive, everything is easy peasy and you go for it, just go for your dream, girl. Because the truth of the matter is, it is really a long journey and it comes with moments where you're really faced with like, am I going to be able to sustain this much longer? When is the breakthrough going to come? When is it going to happen? And it does really, you need to have a lot of resilience to go through it. And the best thing is if you're able to also find somebody to partner with, because it will always take a team and it will always take many, many hands for you to go far. There's a saying in Ghana, you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, you need to take people with you, right?
Great. And Wolf, as we understood, the most important is for you to find investors. So maybe a message to co-investors from you as an investor. Why Talmond?
Because we are there to stay. The product is great. All problems have been solved along the way, from supply overproduction to customer. The most important thing is that our customers believe in the product, and therefore all the rest is just a matter of getting it organized and financed.
Thank you so much for your courage, your vision, and inspirations.
Thank you for having us.
Peter. It was a pleasure talking to you about it. And also thank you for your insightful questions.
Thank you. And for those who are watching this impact with Ben and myself, if this conversation has moved you, share it with someone who still thinks our food systems can't change. Maybe they just haven't met the right nut.
Thank you for sharing this space with us today.
Remember, real impact begins the moment you stop running from who you are.
Let today's story remind you that every soul carries light, even through darkness.
Until next time, stay open, stay human, and lead with love.